What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And today's video is about this D1 Glazer beef between Ariel Helwani and Logan Paul. Now, I already made a video about this a few days ago or a week ago or something like that. And I'm still going to recap the topic from the top. But I don't know if you saw it, but if you did see it, you may recall near the end of the video, I started to lose faith that this was actually a real beef. I started to think it was a bit of a work and that Ariel was just kind of joking around and didn't really care about what Logan Paul has said about him. We're going to go through all of that. I actually now think it was legit. He wasn't overly perturbed, but he was slightly perturbed. When I saw that Ariel was on Logan's podcast, Impaulsive, I was like, oh, for sure it was a work. For sure he was just playing around about the D1 Glazer being upset, and he was never really upset. But actually, I do think he was a little perturbed. And then it went deeper. I feel like the wound got opened a little bit more with some of the conversation discussion that the two had on the show, going back to journalism, going back to what happened with the UFC and the whole Brock Lesnar thing. I mean, a lot of stuff happened. So I want to cover the entire thing because I think now this is really materialized into, I think, something real. And as you know, if you do follow this channel, we do like to cover beefs. And Ariel is kind of the best of the best when it comes to handling these beefs. He makes them very entertaining. So I thought I'd start from the top. Where did this all begin? How did Ariel find himself in some sort of a conflict with Logan Paul? Well, it began when Ariel was commentating or doing some broadcasting at a WWE event alongside Logan Paul. And this is a recap of what happened there that sparked off this whole kind of like mini beef, if you will. Check it out.
Then all of a sudden, I'm sent this clip. And the exact opposite happened. Not only was he not bigging me up, he was insulting me. He was making fun of me. This dude was making fun of me. Everything they said about this dude, I mean, correct. It's correct. Unbelievably. Here I am advocating for him, showing him love, giving him the rub, giving him the street cred in the fighting community. And this is what he does to me. Unbelievable. I felt like someone spit in my face. I felt like someone stabbed me in the back. I felt betrayed. Here's what he did.
He's up on the top rope and he takes the drone and then he flies with the drone. We've never seen anything like this before.
It's insane.
John Cena and CM Punk were headlining tonight. He should have been headlining. What are we doing here, Triple H?
Yeah, dude, you're a great hype man.
This guy's a D1 Glazer, bro.
What? SummerSlam. Red light. None of this night one BS. This is the face. Get him in there. Headlining for the title.
Let's go. You heard it here, bro.
This guy's a D1 Glazer. First of all, I mean, it's truly fucked up.
While you go to continue to hype him up.
Covered his mouth.
Yeah.
See that? He covers his mouth. When he
Coward shit.
Called you
Oh,
first
you'd slap the shit
team
out.
all glaze.
Coward shit. I showed that to my kids yesterday. They were so offended on my behalf. They're like, what?
I
This
feel
dude?
like that's why you're extra offended, because you showed your kids and like instead of like chuckling, your kids are like, nah, that's fucked up, man. I can't believe he said
It's
that
totally
shit.
fucked up. You know what they did?
it is
They went
fucked
to the room. They have all the primes. They poured them all out into the toilet.
I know you're bullshitting.
Not for
That's where
real.
it belongs.
You're serious.
They felt disrespected by the
Okay. When I first heard that, when he talked about his kids pouring out the prime and stuff like that, I was like, I don't know. I think he's just messing. I think he's just playing. I don't think he's actually upset. He was just joking around. Because, I mean, being called, there's obviously way worse things you could be called. D1 Glazer, right? Somebody who's just going on and big upping Logan Paul to such an extent where he calls him a Glazer. Like, it's not so bad. Anyways, so I was kind of on the fence as I was nearing the end of my video and going over all of this. I'm like, I don't know if this is a real thing. Like, he comes out strong at the beginning saying, man, all the things that they said about Logan Paul, I guess about him being fake or something like that. He's like, I guess it's all true. So I thought maybe, but then I said, nah. He's just messing around. He's just having fun. Then I saw this pop up and Ariel was on Logan Paul's show on Impaulsive. So I thought when this popped up, for sure, this is just a made up little beef. They're just having fun. Logan was joking around. Maybe Ariel was even in on the joke. So whatever. That's a bummer. Missed opportunity for another coverage of a interesting, evolving beef. But it actually gets very interesting. So check this out. This is Ariel coming on the show, bringing up the D1 Glazer comment right off the jump. Check it out.
It's probably poisoned or some shit.
What the F? Dude, what? What? You are really mean to him, dude.
I saw the
Ariel?
Yeah, I saw the clip.
What clip?
Just where you just, I don't know, dude. You just said some stuff that just wasn't super nice.
Have we started? Is this official?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, when you get
You look at their faces, like they still almost look like they're acting. I can't even tell what's going on anymore. I'm so confused. I mean, they do the WWE thing and they do whatever it's called, the kayfabe. I don't know. I might be just getting fooled and totally punked here. But so when he says they throw him the sandwich, he's like, oh, it's probably poisoned. It's a reference to basically him trying to big up Logan Paul and him somewhat stabbing him in the back. I guess I don't know if that's putting it too extreme, but where he said the D1 Glazer thing into a shirt. Anyways, so this is how it begins. I'll let them continue and stop interrupting.
give me that nice hug over there, I was trying to make sure that there wasn't a knife in my back from the fucking clip. Can I set it up for you guys?
Yeah.
Here I am on DAZN. The great Kate Scott is by my side, formerly known as Kate Abdo. They tell us, okay, we have time to fill. Logan Paul is going to join us. In my mind, I say, friend, companion, mutual
colleague,
respect,
100%.
He knows how to fill time. He knows how to kill time. He's he's an entertainer. By the way, I've watched almost every episode of this podcast. I've never seen Logan eat in the middle of the podcast. So that, first off, disrespect right off the bat. Okay, I know I'm not fucking Triple H here,
Trump.
but for the fucking hell, these guys eating. Okay.
Let me chime in actually, because I actually do have something to say about this. Even on our small show, when me and Justin do our live streams on Monday and Fridays, we figured out pretty early on in the show that if we did eat, because we both tried it at different times, that if we eat during the show, it just totally screws up the flow and the rhythm. And so we never do it anymore. I mean, like almost never. Maybe there's been like 1 or 2 exceptions in the last year. But so I do actually, I'm with Ariel here. You shouldn't ever be doing this. It's not only disrespectful, but it completely screws up the flow and it looks weird to the audience, etc. So I'm with Ariel on this one.
I understand. I'm low on the totem pole. Fine. There I am. I say, let's have some fun. Let's cut some promos. They just had an event in Riyadh. Let me build this guy up. Let's do a good little shtick, right? I'll be his wise man. I'm Jewish. Paul Heyman.
It was finally your big chance.
Yes. This was my shot. And then it's a loud place. There's all these kids. And he turns to his, one of his jabroni cameramen. And no disrespect. I don't think it was you. I don't think it was you. It was another guy. It was another guy. And I think he's saying to the cameraman, like, yo, this guy's good, man. Like, we should do something together. Cool. A couple weeks later, can I keep going, or can I break the fourth wall?
No, you're
break
good.
Kayfabe. WWE Unreal. Everyone's breaking kayfabe. Okay, I get a DM from him saying like, hey, man, actually first I get the DM and I say to my wife who's in the car with me, like, oh, this is probably Logan inviting me to be a part of his like thing. Like I like, oh, I killed it so bad. This is probably Logan inviting me to be like his guy, his wise man, his oracle, his advocate. Play the thing out loud. My daughter's in the car as well. I play the voice note out loud. Guys, this is me. I'm going to get the coolest points here, right? Hey, bro, just wanted to give you a heads up. My latest vlog just came out, and there's a period there where like you're bigging me up, and then I turn to the camera and I say, this guy's a D1 Glazer, bro. Now I had notes, but my editor, he missed that note. He missed that note. Oh my God, he never misses note, but he just so happened to miss that note. Of course, me being the YouTube expert that I am, I know that you could even go back to the back end of YouTube and edit it.
That's too much work.
It's literally just sitting there.
It takes hours to process.
Hours to process my ass. It takes 10 minutes.
No,
you guys
the
are
trim,
a big
the
channel.
trim on YouTube, editors
I have so much respect. We got a good thing, but that was just me being the bad guy. I say, let me see what this clip is all about. And there it is. This guy's a D1 Glazer, bro. And then I showed it to my kids, my boys, who are 13 and 11, and the hurt that they felt in their heart.
No.
Yeah, they felt like you had not only stabbed me in the back, but them in the back. They took these wine bottles that they have all over their room, emptied them out, flushed them down the toilet.
No, come
said,
on,
Dad,
good prime.
Bring us I'm not going to say the other competitor. Bring us the other ones. We're done with this guy. D1 Glazer, bro, is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And you know what? I think you meant it. I don't think this was a gimmick. I don't think this was kayfabe.
Okay, anyways, so up till this point I'm watching it, and like there's moments where I think maybe he's actually serious. I still think that whole Prime pouring out story is crazy, but it's just really bizarre. I don't know. And even at some points Logan Paul looks like he's acting. I feel like I'm being taken for a ride here still, and there's nothing amiss, and they're just kind of playing around, having fun with the audience, having fun with people like me making random videos on these purported beefs or maybe imaginary beefs. Anyways, so far he's kind of bringing it up, but it may potentially even just be playful and doesn't really care. Is D1 Glazer really that bad? I don't know. Kind of don't think so. But anyways, we continue in the show. And then they ask him point blank, all right, so about the D1 Glazer, they make a whole thing about it. They actually have funny t-shirts that they're wearing underneath just to make light of the whole thing. So I actually think it's kind of cool right now. They actually ask point blank, hey, Ariel, is this really an issue? Are you really upset? And here's where he says, nah, it's all good.
Yeah, you seem deeply offended.
Nah, I'm good. It's actually probably better for my street cred to be at odds with you.
Do you think you are a D1 Glazer, though? Is there merit in the statement?
Towards who? You in particular? Or in life?
I just feel like in general, there could be a lot of glaze coming from you.
Really? This is actually counter to what most people say.
I was going to say that.
They say I'm a hater.
Yeah, D1 hater.
Yeah.
Maybe he just really likes you.
By the way,
Have you ever
what's
thought about
worse,
that?
being a D1 hater or D1 Glazer?
D1 haters are whack, dude.
Yeah.
Definitely way worse.
I feel like you kind of are a little bit of a hater sometimes too.
Now
How you going to switch up, bro?
fucking hell. I'm the worst.
And I'll actually sum it up because I've listened to Ariel for years and years and am constantly watching his channel and watching his interviews because he does do the best interviews on the planet. But yeah, I mean, I think he has his moments on both. If he really likes you, if he has a good relationship, like with Ilia Topuria, it does feel like he's got that Glaze vibe. I don't see what's so bad about being a quote unquote Glazer. Like he likes Ilia Topuria. He's a fan. I'm a fan of Khamzat Chimaev. Like it is what it is. That's what makes the sport fun. But yeah, on the hating side, I think if he doesn't like you, that things can definitely, he can put a little, maybe a slight negative spin on things. I mean, he's not going to go out like MMA Guru and just totally roast somebody and rip them to shreds and, you know, say all the stuff that like MMA Guru said to John Jones. He won't do that, to his credit. But yeah, it is kind of depending, I think, to some extent, how he feels about a fighter as a person, the relationship he has. Do they come on a show? I really do think, even if he doesn't think that consciously is at the forefront of his mind, I do believe that plays a part subconsciously in terms of how he talks about particular people, how he feels about them. So maybe he is on both ends. If he likes you, he's got your back and he's going to say positive things, otherwise negative. So yeah, maybe there's some truth to this. I don't think it's all such a terrible insult to say he's a Glazer or a hater or some combination thereof. All right, moving on. Now it gets a little interesting because even up to this point, it's still kind of fun in games. Like it wasn't the worst insult in the world. Even then, calling him a bit of a hater and a Glazer, not so terrible. But this is where I think it gets a little into murky water, where actually Ariel does get quite perturbed because now this goes into territory of Ariel's journalistic integrity. And by the way, at the end of this video, make sure to stick around because for the first time, I made tons of videos about Ariel and about his reporting and all this stuff. But for the first time, I actually tried to do a little bit of research into what are the baseline code of ethics as a journalist and what are the things that Ariel probably really sticks to as a code. Like, is it just a typical code, a golden rule type of thing? Because it can't exactly be that. So I was like, maybe there was something that he learned in academia about the core guidelines for being a good journalist, and that's what he adheres to above all else. And that might explain the way he feels about certain things or his behavior, his conduct or whatnot. So stick around for that. I think it's going to be kind of interesting. We're going to get to that at the end of the video. But anyways, in this clip, Logan kind of goes in on Ariel about his journal, about him being a journalist and his integrity within that field. Check it out.
How do you balance your journalistic desires to break news with your loyalty to the people that you're protecting, the news that you're breaking? Does that make sense? Like you hurt Dana, dude.
Oh, stop it with this. I heard Dana.
No, but seriously, my question remains. Like, how do you like, I know more than anyone about what's going on behind the scenes in every creator camp.
Yes.
I would never break news because
I did nothing wrong. No one from the UFC told me any type of information. I would not be sitting here doing this job and getting all the big names that come on my show if I broke trust, right? So if you tell me, and by the way, we've had conversations. Do I leak it? Do I post screen grabs? Do I say, oh,
I think you did on one of them.
What? Fuck out of here. Never.
I think you did.
I've never in my life. I never will.
Yeah,
and I take that shit very seriously.
Did you just make an accusation? Now you're trying to think of why
you did. You did.
Yeah, sure.
You did the Conor thing.
What Conor thing?
You did.
Tell me.
When it was rumored that I was fighting McGregor.
Yes.
You DM'd me and said, "Is it true?"
Yes.
And I said, "At the moment, no." And I didn't say this is proprietary information, and I'd like to keep this rumor going for clout.
Yes.
But maybe I should have. But you went right on your show and said they don't have anything in place.
I actually went on my show. This is inaccurate. I actually went on my show and said there was something. There were discussions. I knew about the family in India. I talked about you guys being.
Well, there were discussions in place.
Yes.
But I don't know if I was ready for that information to break.
No, I don't think he broke it because of what you
I
said.
didn't break anything. I don't know how we got down this track, but for me, the main thing is if someone tells me something, I assume it's off the record unless you say otherwise. I don't go the opposite way.
Right.
So you may think otherwise, and maybe we have a
No,
different-
what you're saying is not accurate.
It is accurate.
No.
It's
He's a
1,000%
journalist.
accurate.
What are you
No. Because you DM me and I told you what was happening, and then you went on the record and said it.
And I said I spoke to Logan Paul and he said this.
Yes.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I said
You don't want to go again. Here's one thing I will say. He's bro.
I got receipts.
He
bro.
keeps
always.
everything. You might have done it.
You did do
Usually
it.
I would play devil's
You did do
advocate.
and by the way, that breached your trust. If what you are saying is accurate,
No.
that breached your
It
trust.
didn't breach my trust, but I was like, ooh, I do got to be careful what I tell Ariel.
Wow.
Really?
I'll talk.
I did.
This actually goes back to the D1 Glazer stuff now.
No, I'm
Now
just
this-
saying. I'm just saying because I told you as like a guy in the industry, not like I didn't think you would go right to the show and say it.
Okay.
That's all. And by the way, I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying it
You
wasn't.
do, but also I will stick to my guns. I will stick to my guns and say I actually was saying that there was credence to it.
Well, there was. Those
know.
were real conversations, but the only way people would know that they were legitimate conversations is because I told you and you said it.
Absolutely not. You don't think I talked to people on the other side of the fence?
Yeah, that's
Who?
what I was saying.
Were you fighting your shadow?
There's another
My
opponent.
shadow.
There's another opponent.
Yeah. Like he's saying he
Conor?
has sources
Yeah.
across the globe.
Like I talked to there's other people involved.
Oh.
So
it was on the record when you spoke with Conor.
I'm not
Or
saying
did you
I
do the
spoke to
same
anyone.
thing you did with me? to him?
I'm not saying I spoke to anyone, but you weren't the only player involved. It wasn't like Logan Paul has signed with so and so, and there's only really one entity that could tell me that.
Okay. Now this gets interesting because in that entire clip, so the way that Logan remembers it, all right, and we're gonna get to the actual clip of what Ariel said back in the show. The way that Logan remembers it is that Ariel asked him what was going on, and he actually in this when he recounts it on the show, he says, "Nope, I told you that nothing was going on because I didn't want to talk about it, even though there were discussions going on." And Ariel's like, "No, that's not what you told me. You actually said there was stuff going on." And actually, Ariel did report on the show that discussions were going on. Okay. Or no. Hold on. Let me back that up. I kind of messed that up. Logan was saying, I told you nothing was going on because I didn't want to talk about it. So Ariel's like, no, that's not. I didn't say no conversations were being had. I actually said the opposite. So it couldn't have come from you. It came from other sources. It had nothing to do with our conversation. This is the clip right here where this is true, right? What Ariel said is correct. He did go on and say that there was merit to the claims that Conor and Logan were potentially going to fight. But later on in this presentation, you're going to see that actually Logan's misremembering. He didn't deny things to Ariel. He actually did disclose to Ariel that conversations were happening, which is exactly what Ariel says in this clip. Now, here's the interesting question. And I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to tell you what I think. The interesting thing is that Logan told Ariel that conversations were happening. Ariel then reported on a show that conversations were happening. What he is saying on their podcast is that, yeah, but you weren't the only person that I talked to. So while you may not have, while that conversation was off the record, I heard it from another source, another confidential source, which was on the record. And that's why I was able to present this information. But we don't know that source. So this is the point where we kind of have to take Ariel at his word, because it is possible under the guise of saying I have another source. So it wasn't you that I got that information from, but maybe really the only person he talked to was Logan, then released the information and then could hide behind the fact that he's like, well, yeah, but there's other people that knew about it. Maybe I talked to somebody else. I'm not going to disclose who. And so he can have plausible deniability. That's possible. Now, I'll tell you what I think. I actually don't think that happened. I actually don't think that Ariel would play those types of games when it comes to sources, because he talks about later in this video, one of the later slides, he talks about how important it is to him to be absolutely trustworthy in this game, and that means everything to him. And I understand that. Having that allegiance to your business and your particular code of ethics and your line of work and wanting to be the best of the best of the best at something, I totally understand that, which is why I'm inclined to believe Ariel on this front. Yes, maybe he had the conversation with Logan. Yes, maybe he got that information, but I don't think he shared that information solely from his discussion with Logan. I just don't think Ariel, I just don't think he would do that. That's my 2 cents. But anyways, here's the clip where he did talk about the fight, just so you can get some context in there into what they're talking about on the show.
It all kicks off with this tweet from Conor McGregor at 4:08 a.m. Eastern time. That's 9:08 in Edda. The rumors of a bout with Topuria are false. I believe he's referring to Ilia Topuria. I am in preliminary agreements with the Ambani family to face Logan Paul in a boxing exhibition in India. I have agreed. I will then seek my return to the octagon. Shortly thereafter, we got a tweet from Ilia Topuria saying the rumors of a bout with McChicken are false. I don't fight, nor am I interested in fighting with a rapist. That was at 8:21 a.m. Eastern time. Subsequently, like I said, Conor McGregor tweeting a whole host of things. He had some more tweets. I was found liable for assault and guilty of nothing. I'll be pursuing all defamatory writings about me. I'm in amazing spirits. God has chosen me and I accept. I thank you to all those who have looked at this impartially and are supporting me in my fight for justice. The truth shall prevail, as God as my witness. That was in the midst of all of this. There's some other tweets from Conor McGregor. I don't know. I think that was it that we pulled from the series of tweets. And so everyone's like, okay, what is going on here? Where I started to feel like there was some validity and something up was when we then saw this tweet from Jake Paul. Not Logan Paul, by the way, who he was talking about, Jake Paul. Now it all makes sense why Conor McGregor and his management team have been desperately trying to get MVP to negotiate for a fight between us. As we told them privately, and I'm now saying publicly, the only way we're willing to explore me versus Conor in a pro boxing / MMA fight is if Dana White / UFC are at the table directly or make it clear they are okay with discussions. Conor is washed, needs the Pauls, Logan buy however he wants. All right, so in the middle of that little tweet sandwich, there's that really important part. As we told them privately, and now I'm saying publicly, the only way we're willing to explore me versus Conor in a pro box fight is if the UFC is involved, essentially. And at the top of that, he says, now it all makes sense. What? And so what I'm hearing is what he is saying, there's validity there from his perspective. Then I start to dig in, and what I'm hearing is there's validity to what Conor is saying as well. Does it actually happen in 2025? Who knows? Can it happen? We'll find out. Is there truth to this? Yes, this is a real thing. Now, when I say this is a real thing, let's be very clear. I'm not saying this is a real thing. It's a done deal. I'm saying he's just not, like, this isn't him trolling or pulling this out of his back pocket. It's a real thing that is being discussed.
Okay, so there you go. I think that's what Logan is referring to. He said, hey, I just had the conversation with you, and then now you're saying this on your show. What the heck? I thought that was confidential. In Ariel's defense, what he's alleging is that, yeah, he had the conversation with Logan, but he had it with other people on the record. That's why he said what he said. He did, I guess, according to him, figure out that there was some validity, some legitimacy to these conversations and to these tweets and whatnot. So again, that's what happened. I'm just rewinding back in time. That's crazy. That was just in December of 2024. It feels like that was 5 years ago, but it did go down like that. And again, I don't know if we can definitively know. Actually, I bet you Ariel has receipts of like who he talked to. He just won't publicly share it because those are his confidential sources. But as I mentioned, it's just my feeling. I'm inclined to believe Ariel on this front, that even if he got the information from Logan, like his general standard of practice would not be to do something like that and try and lie about it, or try and say, no, I heard it from somebody else. I mean, you're not the only game in town. I feel like, I just don't think that's the way Ariel operates. That's my guess, and that's my feeling. All right, now we go back to the podcast, and we're going to continue on. It gets worse in terms of the tension between them, because now they start to ask about the relationship between Ariel and the UFC. Not like that's an off limits topic, but obviously I'm sure it's a touchy thing that Ariel has had to talk about like a million times. I'm sure he's not crazy about this conversation. And on top of that, they bring up the whole thing. They bring up the whole Brock Lesnar thing and that debacle, and they frame it as Ariel leaking information, which he hates with that characterization. So anyways, check out this clip next.
Where do you stand currently with UFC?
Well, you asked me like 4 other questions prior, and I never really addressed them. I don't know if you want
Go
me
with
to
this
address
one.
them. Go with this one.
Yeah.
Where do I stand with? Wait, what was the question?
Where do
Dana
you currently
and the UFC?
Yeah.
My relation. Okay, let's start with Dana. It is a non-existent relationship, which means, do we text? Do we call? Do we exchange things? No. There was once a period from like 2009 to 2016 where it couldn't have been any better. The texting, the calling, the interviews, the interactions, all that stuff. And 2016, it all kind of, blew up, fizzled, whatever. But he exists and is doing his thing and thriving. And I exist doing my thing and thriving. Meaning I still cover the sport. I still think I cover it very favorably and honestly and all that stuff. Still have all the guys there. We were at International Fight Week. We were doing all this stuff. And so we just kind of exist. There's different people that exist.
We were there. You weren't there?
I was in Las Vegas. We were doing a bunch of stuff at the Venetian. We had Izzy, we had Volk, we had Tom Aspinall.
Can you go to a fight?
Okay, so now we go back to the other question.
Okay.
2016, when I broke the Brock Lesnar news, which I didn't breach any trust, and no one in the UFC told me there was no mole. All this stuff is 1,000% not true. I was banned from the UFC for 48 hours. Banned for 48 hours. I was escorted out of the building for 48 hours. The people had my back. There was an uprising, all this stuff. I've talked about it a million times. I was unbanned 48 hours later, meaning that Monday night I was unbanned. That event was UFC 199, June of 2016. I was at UFC 200. I was at UFC 201. I was at 202. I was at 203. I was at 210.
You were there.
Yes. So the Johnny Come Latelys, not naming any names, think that I've been banned since then. They've just completely erased time. I went to work for ESPN. I was at every single event there. The last UFC event that I went to was March of 2020.
Got it.
Right before the pandemic. It was Izzy against Yoel Romero. A year and a half, then the pandemic hit. We didn't travel, blah, blah, blah. My contract expired. I chose not to resign. I wanted to go out and explore some other things. It all worked out. And I said to myself that I don't really need to go. I'll be honest, it wasn't very friendly towards the end. They made life a little bit difficult for me, but I have not applied for credentials since that event. So if I do apply, are they welcoming me back? Probably not. Like, they're not thrilled about it, but I don't know. So people say, like, how does it feel to be banned? Can you go? I don't know the answer to that. I have not actually applied. Is it the same as someone who's like, you're about to get fired, so you don't like show up to work? I don't know. But the 1,000% truth is, and you can ask them, I have not applied for a credential since March of 2020.
All right. So I got a couple of things to say on this. So number one, I think, again, he's probably getting aggravated because they're bringing up the story that he's had to talk about a billion times. And then they also kind of insinuated with that question that, hey, you're not really allowed to go to the UFC events. And that's also not exactly a true narrative. I mean, it's kind of true because, as he mentioned, I think if he reapplied for the press credentials, he probably would get denied. So maybe he kind of can't actually go. It just hasn't been tested fully, or he hasn't tried or hasn't wanted to test those limits or whatever. But then I just want to say one thing about the Brock Lesnar thing, because I've heard Ariel talk about this story a million times, and he always says the same exact thing, which is, I did absolutely nothing wrong. Okay. He got that information through legitimate sources. There was no leak. There was no mole. There was nothing that he was asked to keep quiet. But the UFC brass and Dana White and a lot of people obviously got pissed off. And So I'm trying. This is where I was trying to understand what exactly is going on, because Ariel will say up and down all day that he did absolutely nothing wrong, but he made so many people mad, or at least Dana White mad. And I think that, and maybe it actually had no real ultimate negative impact on the business or the announcement or whatever of the Brock Lesnar fight that they were, I guess, trying to save and announce at a particular time in a particular way, which I understand. And so maybe that stole the thunder, stole the steam or whatever of that announcement. But anyways, I think from the journalism code of ethics or whatever, however Ariel has been trained, I believe him that according to the code of ethics that he follows, he probably did absolutely nothing wrong. But I wonder, it's just sort of like on a personal level, on a golden rule level or something, that maybe if he would have thought a little bit more and be like, you know what, I can report this, I can easily release this. I'm doing nothing wrong by releasing it, but maybe I'll hold it back because I think it might be a bigger pop for the UFC. Like it could be one of those things where it's just like, hey, take off the journalism hat for a second. And you've got a relationship with Dana White and the organization. Why don't you just let them do their thing? Because who really cares if you announce it a few hours earlier, or they have this like really nice announcement where it's brand new to everybody with the video and a promo and all this stuff. I think the truth of that whole incident lies somewhere in between, where according to Ariel's code of ethics, again, this is a speculation, I'm just trying to make sense of it, because it's like they hate him so much and he always says I did absolutely nothing wrong. It's like it doesn't make sense, right? It's got to be something to this. But anyways, so maybe he completely followed his code of ethics that he learned at Syracuse University or whatever, but they're looking at it through a different lens of like, no, man, just as a friend to a friend or as a colleague, we hope you're trying to support and build up and hype up the UFC, because it's also part of the funnel that gives you interviews and content and money and whatever. You would have just held back. You would have done just the normal thing and held back. This is what I think maybe where there just seems to be a mismatch in terms of perspectives. I think that's the disconnect. He's like, hey, by this strict set of ethics, this strict standard of practice, I was totally fine. But it's not about that. You know, these guys probably don't care about this code of ethics. They just were hoping that from friend to friend, this is what I think, that maybe he should have held back. And by the way, as I mentioned, this is part of the reason why I wanted to pull up the code of ethics, so I can maybe get a better understanding of Ariel's perspective in this whole ordeal. Now, Ariel starts to get a little bit heated in this clip, where he really goes off and he really talks about his integrity as a journalist. Says, hey, look, I'm not perfect, but show me once where I was unfair, where I did this, where I did that. So anyways, we're going to hear Ariel go on a little bit of a rant defending himself. Check this out.
But again, sometimes people get in others' ears. Sometimes people want to paint me into the bad guys. Sometimes people don't like when I voice my opinion. Show me once, Dana White, anyone who is appearing to be like an enemy of mine, show me once that I was unfair, that I hit them below the belt, that I was disrespectful, that I was unprofessional, that I made it personal. Show me one.
Now, this is a little bit of a subjective area. I do think overall, I mean, look, you have to think about the age we're in right now with so many YouTubers going really, really dark in the MMA space in particular, just ragging on fighters, just, going off the rails in terms of insulting them. So we have to be fair here that really Ariel never does that type of stuff where he's like, this guy is absolute trash, he's terrible or something like that, right? Like we hear a lot of other YouTubers do that all the time, it feels like nowadays. Ariel never does anything remotely close to that. I think we have a handful of examples with fighters that he's gotten into beefs with where maybe he'll kind of like maybe like a little bit put words in their mouth or spin things in a way that makes them look bad, and he'll do it a little bit intentionally when they're having a debate or argument or something like that. But it's far and few between. I think in general, he does try his best to be really, really fair. Obviously, he is a fan too, and sometimes those biases creep in. Sometimes those relationships might slightly color his perspective, but I think that's only natural for any human being. It's just going to be impossible to be completely, absolutely impartial when he has this connection of this relationship where he's interviewing all these fighters on the regular. So yeah, I think it's a pretty fair statement when he's like, hey, overall, I think I've been overall pretty darn fair. And remember, this guy's been around for so long. We have so many people new in the business and new on the scene. Maybe their YouTube channels are flourishing. They're killing it right now in the game. But it is pretty remarkable. You know, we saw that one guy, Lucas Tracy, come onto the scene and then retire, I guess, and close down his YouTube channel and then came back. And he's only been at it for a few years. Like Ariel's been here for 17 years, something crazy like that, winning MMA Journalist of the year after year after year. And he's still putting in an A+ effort. You gotta give credit where credit's due. It's pretty crazy. But if you think about the way he shows up and the effort he puts forth, and after how many years, it is pretty remarkable. It's pretty impressive. All right, moving on. Now we get to Ariel's recent response to this entire podcast appearance. See, look, he's got the picture of Ariel, the D1 Glazer or whatever. Those are the funny shirts that Logan Paul made. So now Ariel now on his show responds to this whole thing, explains everything, explains the accusations that Logan threw at him about leaking his information about the Conor McGregor potential fight, that boxing exhibition. And yeah, here's Ariel's response where he says, hey, don't put that stuff out there about me. Don't question my integrity as a journalist. Do not put that out there. And he gives a really impassioned speech. Check it out.
Yeah, like, can I nitpick about a few things? Sure. Did I love that he was eating? I wouldn't do that. I've never seen him do that. Did I call him out on it? Yes. Was it all in good fun? Yes. My style of interviewing someone is like, you're here, like when Cross is going to be here at 2 o'clock, I'm going to stare him in the face for X amount of time and I will not look anywhere else. I don't love when, I've talked about this a million times, when someone's sitting there with a sheet, and I don't love when someone's looking at a phone while you're talking. But I get it. Not everyone's me. I don't necessarily view that as disrespectful. It's just not my style. And the reason why I do that is because when someone's here, I want to connect with them, right? And I want to give them my full attention. If you're not really paying attention and you look at someone looking down, you're like, what is this guy doing?
I'm taking notes, by the way, on all this, because we've had some guests on our show, and he is the best of the best. And he has he's a perfectionist when it comes to this, when it comes to this craft. He talked about on Logan's show, he wants to be the best interviewer in the world. So, I mean, these are all nuggets of wisdom right here. I've even talked to Justin off camera about our show and about the importance of just constantly being present and looking at the camera and things like that. Just stuff that I picked up from watching other shows, and you can see what it looks like when people are looking down or looking away or things like that. So I'm right on board with everything he's saying right here. I did find it weird that Logan was eating. I don't know, maybe he was just starving, whatever it was. But yeah, I appreciate the attention to detail. I appreciate that perfectionist mindset, and I appreciate the fact that he does want to be the best out there, and he is the best. I think I don't know anybody else, and I'm not even talking about an MMA journalism. I like to listen to his interviews of non-MMA guys more than I don't know anybody else who I like as much in terms of the way he asks questions, the way he listens, etc.
There was a moment where like the producer was in the back and like his phone went off, like, and he was looking at Instagram. I don't know if they kept that in there, but like music from an Instagram reel popped up. I'm like, you guys are scrolling in the middle of my, like, am I boring you that much? So, you know, the t-shirt thing is fine. You're trying to like dunk it, all fine. I really could like it. It's all a laugh. I'm down to play. Like, we keep playing the D1 Glazer thing, so I can't be offended. You guys are D1 Glazer, bro. We're playing it up. The one part that I did not like, I will be 100% honest about that, is the part where he accused me of leaking, misreporting, breaking trust when it came to the story of him fighting Conor McGregor back in December. I even went back and rewatched the whole segment yesterday just to make sure I was right. What he said on the show was actually 100% wrong. The complete opposite happened. What he said was that I reached out to him and asked him if that story was true, because that morning Conor was tweeting things that they had a deal with this billionaire family in India, the Ambani family. And I asked him if it was true, and he said no. And I went on the show and said it's not true. What actually happened was, since we're now talking about it, I reached out to him. He said yes. I said, meaning yes, there is validity to it. I came on. I said to him, hey, thank you. We never spoke because it's always off the record with me. I came on the show, and after speaking to other people and connecting the TKO dots, I said, no, there is actually some credence to this. There is a possibility of this happening. Now, it never happened, but I actually never poo-pooed it. I actually did the exact opposite and rewatched the whole segment and never even uttered the possibility of us talking to each other. I never said I reached out to him and he didn't even reply. I never even went down that path. So he was completely wrong. And it's all content. And I'm fine with Logan. But like, this is my life. I don't joke around when it comes to journalism. I don't joke around when it comes to trust. As I said to him, I could not be sitting here. I would have been gone long ago if I sat here and broke people's trust. All those years, people telling me things. And that's why I get so fired up about the bullshit Brock Lesnar story, because for two reasons. A, every time I go on these podcasts, it's why I don't go on a lot of them, they always bring it up and they always get it wrong. If you're going to bring it up, get it right. The ban lasts 48 hours. I was back at UFC 200 and then 201 and then 202 and then 203 and on it goes. So stop saying that I've been banned since 2016. Stop getting it wrong. Stop calling it leaking. I did not leak. I got it right. I reported it via sources outside of the company. No one told me internally. Leaking would suggest that I was internal, getting it from someone internally, and then broke trust by putting it out there. That never happened. So stop getting it wrong. That annoys me. But it annoys me even further when you suggest that I broke trust, that I DM'd you, that I reached out to you, and that you told me not to say something and I did it, because that never happened. Not here, not there, not any time in my career. I take that shit seriously. That may mean nothing to you. Content creators, YouTubers, that may mean nothing, and I get it, and I respect it, and we all have our own lanes. To me, that shit matters. That shit fucking matters more than anything. There's not a single human being on the planet that could ever say that I broke their trust. You could call me a lot of things, but that's why I got pissed off at Brendan when he said I was a bad teammate, because that would suggest that I break people's trust, that I don't play well with others. That's not true. One step further, when it comes to journalism, I don't fucking break trust. If it's off the record, it's off the fucking record for life. You don't think there have been times where I was like, man, if I just told the UFC where I got this from, maybe all this would go away. Maybe the heat would be on them. Fuck no. I would never do that. I would never throw those people under the bus. People, multiple people. I would never fucking do that to anyone. Because if you told me something in confidence, it stays that way till I die. Till I fucking die.
Wow, it's crazy. Okay, I got a few things. I hope I can remember all the things that I wanted to say, because I was coming up with all these ideas as he was speaking. So actually, let's kind of do it a little bit in reverse order. You know, the one thing that he mentioned of, hey, yeah, of course I've thought a little bit, or I guess maybe I could say who gave me the information so I could prove it wasn't a leak, and then that would take some of the heat off me, but I would never do that because I would never reveal my sources. I actually don't, I think that's besides the point. That's my feeling, because I don't think it matters. I think even if he got that information, yeah, maybe they could have dealt with those people, I suppose, too. But I think the point is, I think that they would just hope that, yes, you're not violating a code of ethics in the world of journalism by releasing this information. But you would have done us a solid if you would have held it back. Now, in Ariel's defense, and we're going to get to the code of ethics right after this, in Ariel's defense, perhaps that would have meant that he would have been not been impartial. And that could have been a problem for him. So he maybe felt obliged or compelled to release this information. Okay, so you can kind of go whichever way you want on that. But so I don't think it would have even mattered if he said something or not, whatever. Another just a random observation I want to make is, how crazy is it that this happened in 2016 and this guy still feels like he has to keep explaining it 9 years later, probably like hundreds of times at this point over the last 9 years. That's wild. All right, the last thing I want to say is, Ariel says Logan was completely wrong in what he said. Actually, he wasn't. So what he said on the show was that I told you there was nothing happening, and then you went out and said there was nothing happening, and kind of referencing our conversation. So he got that part wrong, but it's still the heart of it was correct, because what Ariel said this himself. Logan actually confirmed to Ariel that conversations were happening. So he just flipped it in his mind, in his memory. So he did actually confirm that conversations were happening. Ariel did report on that and say, yes, I confirm that conversations are happening behind the scenes. But so Logan's probably not misremembering it in the sense that, yeah, he probably saw a show and was like, oh, dang, I told him that, and now he's talking about it. What the heck? Maybe I should have said this was confidential. Okay, I got to be careful what I say to Ariel, because otherwise he'll talk about it. So that's probably what he was really feeling in the moment, because he's not thinking Ariel talked to other people or whatever. But from Ariel's mind and from Ariel's perspective, yes, he heard from Logan this, but that was a confidential source. He wasn't going to say anything about it. But then he got confirmation from other people that were not off the record, which then gave him, basically allowed him to then talk about it guilt-free, I shouldn't say guilt-free, allowed him to talk about it within his code of ethics, within the journalism code of ethics or whatever. And he went in and reported on it. It's just that Logan wasn't privy to that information, that those other sources or whatever. So he just thought, oh, he talked to me and then he's talking about it. So he broke my trust. So I just want to say that I don't think Logan was completely off, completely out of nowhere. That's probably how it felt to Logan at the time. And that's probably how he interpreted it went down. But this is Ariel's stance. I'm inclined to believe Ariel on this one. All right. Now we get into this last bit of the video. So anyways, I don't even know if this is like the main code of ethics for sports journalists or not, but I found this using ChatGPT. It's called Accountable Sports Journalism. It's this website, and they have this 10-point code of ethics that I thought was interesting. We just read through, maybe just get a little bit more context and probably some more insights into how Ariel operates. And because look, he talks about, if I would have broken people's trust and this and that, like I'd have nobody coming on my show. And I do think there are people who kind of don't like trust. I want to put it in quotation marks because they're wary of him. Like Ali Abdelaziz doesn't allow any of his fighters, with the exception of Kayla Harrison, to go on a show because I think he's wary about the types of things that Ariel asks about. Okay. Like Ariel might get them to reveal information that they don't want revealed, or talk negatively about the UFC, then they can fray the relationship with the UFC, things like that. So people are definitely on guard with respect to Ariel, and some people won't even go on his show because of that. That's why I was trying to understand, like Ariel, he's probably aware of this, but he doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Why is he okay with this type of thing, with even potentially slightly putting fighters in a precarious situation with his questions and his interviewing style? But then when it comes to these other particular issues of like, my sources are confidential till I die, all the stuff, why is that it just placed at such a higher premium? Because if you just look at it, not through the lens of a journalist, but just from a humanist perspective, okay, it's even though that might be all right in standards of practice in this particular field, you're still potentially hurting somebody. So shouldn't you not want to do that? But this is why I want to look into the journalism code of ethics, because I'm like, all right, he's probably operating by the way that he was taught and trained in college, which probably they're okaying these types of more provocative questions that may get people in hot water, but it's like you are pursuing the truth, and whatever may come of it is okay. The cards fall where they fall. This is what I was just imagining. And so I looked this up, and then it did sort of confirm what I was thinking and give me some more insight. So let's read. I didn't pull up all 10 points. I pulled up a handful. I think I pulled up half of them that I thought were relevant to this conversation. So I'm going to read through them right now. So number 1, public function and right to sports information. They should report on all areas of the sport, and as an essential part of their public service, they should not only concentrate on mainstream disciplines, but also give exposure to unrepresented sports. But that's what he's doing with MMA. And then he said this can help broaden coverage. And then it says media professionals should not report on the private lives of sports people unless the information is relevant to understanding the athlete's performance. And I think he does that just fine when he asks about. I like that when Ariel digs in to the upbringing, the personal life, the struggles of a lot of these fighters to paint their entire narrative. I think he does a really good job of it. And I think in MMA, those types of personal details are more important than ever because it's such an individual sport, and we become fans of not just the fight style, but of the person as a whole. So I think this is one of the things that drives Ariel. Hospitality from sources and independence. He talks about this. He talks about turning away gifts and turning down gifts. And now, I mean, that is a little bit more obvious because I don't need to read a code of ethics to understand that one. It's just like, all right, well, now maybe they're giving you something, they're expecting certain things, or it can maybe bias you in certain ways that you don't want to be biased, right? Like that's obvious. But anyways, it is included in this code of ethics. Sports journalists should reject invitations and gifts from teams or promoters, which he talks about, that could call into question and instrumentalize them as reporters acting as independent eyewitnesses. I actually think this is maybe what kind of happened with him in the UFC, where the UFC was really hoping that he would be an instrument of the UFC as opposed to an impartial third party that is just reporting and disclosing news or whatnot. Likewise, they should not use their position as journalists to obtain free tickets for any sport events or other sources. Okay, whatever, right? News gathering and impartiality. Okay, sports journalists should avoid developing a close relationship with sports sources and maintain a critical distance. He's talked about this. He's talked about not wanting to hang out and go out to dinner and do all these things with fighters. And maybe like sparingly he does it, but he's talked about this. So I understand now where this is coming from. Of course, it also makes sense that the closer you develop a relationship with somebody, you're going to be biased towards them. It's just impossible not to be if you like that person, right? They should also avoid misconduct such as boosterism or nationalistic or chauvinistic approaches. Impartiality entails being professional rather than behaving like fans. But there is an element of Ariel, I think, that is a fan of the sport, and he lets it out sparingly, occasionally. It doesn't overtake his content and his interviews and whatnot, but you could see it here and there for particular fighters. You could tell he has like a soft spot, but I kind of like that. I think it's done to the right degree, to the right amount, where he can still, feel like he is being within reason, pretty dang impartial. Okay, last two ones that I included here. Factual reporting. Sports journalists are committed to truthful and factual reporting. I think this is part of him just like wanting to get things 1,000,000% right. They should establish a clear distinction between facts and their personal opinions, which I think he does. Reinforcing methods of verification is essential to the fight against fake news, the pervasiveness of speculation, and blah, blah. Like, I'm happy to speculate, right? I'm on our fun little YouTube channel, but I know Ariel does not like to do that unless he's like stating explicitly, all right, now I'm speculating or something like that. Finally, sports beyond sports. Sports journalists should go beyond the dramatic action on the field and raise public awareness about relevant context that exists behind the play. So explain from the social, financial, cultural, and political dimensions. This is interesting because it sheds a little bit more light perhaps on why he does feel the need to bring up fighter pay more so than I feel like a lot of other journalists in the space. I also think he does care about the fighters, like he says. And now that the relationship between him and Dana White is essentially completely severed, there's nothing holding him back, right? There's no, hey, maybe I want to also support the brand and support my friends here. Like, that relationship has been severed. So, he has no restrictions. It is what it is. Anyways, all of this to say, I think this gives us a little bit of a better idea as to possibly some of the reasons why Ariel does what he does. And that's it. There's the whole beef. So in sum, and I think this is important to talk about, is this beef, did I just get fooled completely with this whole beef? I think partially, yeah. Because I think even Ariel said at the end, hey, I was playing into it. Wasn't really that big of a deal, whatever. And they play the D1 Glazer thing on their show as a sound effect now. They have the shirts, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think it's a real legitimate beef. There's only one piece of this, which Ariel touched upon, that really got under his skin, is when when Logan called into question his integrity, brought up the Dana White thing, said you hurt Dana, rehashing the whole Brock Lesnar thing, whatever. So I think there was that little bit of annoyance. Do I think this is actually going to blow up into a major beef where they're going to go back and forth and really get into the weeds with name calling and all this stuff? I actually don't think that's going to happen. Would it be wildly entertaining? Yes, because all of Ariel's beefs are really entertaining, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think they actually have a reasonable relationship. I'm sure Ariel wasn't a huge fan of all that, but I don't think it's anything that can't be overcome. That's it, guys. It's late. I got to go to bed. We're almost at UFC 319. Holy smokes. It is just in a couple of days. I'm flying to Chicago in like not too long. So I got to get some sleep. I am so excited for this card. Okay, I'm going out of the side. But anyways, let me know what you guys think of this entire video and this entire ordeal. Make sure to click that like button, and we will see you in the next video. Take it easy. UFC 319. Let's go. Peace.